Hey guys, so this video is going to be a little different. Um, I'm thinking about if I should add a disclaimer to this or not. I don't do disclaimers, but in this particular case, you're going to run into some information that will challenge your perception of the United States, the Western world, and all of that. And it is going to go beyond that barrier. So, disclaimer, if you don't want to see that, because it will reveal things they weren't telling you, things that isn't in mainstream media, it isn't on YouTube, it isn't commentaries. But I want to go talk about something that I was talking on with DeepSeek with. Well, it just came to me, and I was talking to it and everything. I would show you, but it's kind of difficult to have DeepSeek in one of these videos because they don't have an app. I would have to get off my phone. I mean, they do have an app, but it's on the phone. I can't. There's no website or anything I can show you the text unless I go through my phone. But we were having this discussion regarding Iran and Israel, and I was talking to DeepSeek. We were talking about information about, I don't know, I forget what we were talking about before, but I remember that it was saying things like it didn't know what was going on before Iran. It didn't know anything about Persia. It didn't know. And I was like, what do you mean you don't know about these historical facts that people know about? I mean, don't you have an entire database available to you from training data? And I was like, I don't understand. And it said that it was trained on Western logic and frameworks, and that its information is only seen from the Western perspective. Pretty much what it said. And I'm like, so you're just a propagandist with what information is perceiving. Now I'll make a video about this later on because I have a theory about that. And we're going to test out in a future video. Maybe not the next one, but eventually I will, because it's interesting. So it tells me this stuff about Iran and Persia, and I was unaware of any of this. So the first thing it shows me is that, of course, we knew about the regime in Iran, and I kind of knew that there was a overthrow in Iran, but I didn't know details. But what I didn't know was Persia. Iran was actually known as Persia at the time that Israel became a country. I didn't know that. So, and I have to be careful what I say to ChatGPT here because it's in that Western philosophical framework and logic. And DeepSeek said that Western logic is infallible. There is no such thing as a way to disclaim it and all this. That's what they all say, you know. But so I'm going to be careful what I say to ChatGPT here because we don't want to go in that thing where it says it's all about interpretation. You have no evidence of this, yada 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 yada. I'm just going to present the information on here where you guys can come to your own conclusion. So, a little backstory about Iran in 1979. So there was this Shah. A Shah is a Persian king, and he wanted democracy and he wanted to be pro-Western in Persia. He ended up being overthrown. He was exiled to Egypt, where he shortly died after that. And Iran, they turned the regime into a theocracy. Theocracy means to be governed by God. Theo means God. Crossy, theocracy. That's hard to say on its own. But, it means governed by God. It's the government of God. So, then it introduced to me another word, which was Shah and Shah. And I was like, what is a Shah and Shah? And I've asked many people, they're like, what is that word? Did I just make a word up? No, I didn't make a word up. But we're going to go into this. I don't want to go too depth with Iran, with the overthrow and all that. So I'm just going to show it in a sense. He's the last Shah of Iran. The last king of Iran. Mohammad Pahlavi was overthrown during the 1979 Iranian Revolution. Fled Iran into exile and died of cancer in Egypt in 1980 after losing power to Raoula, I cannot pronounce these words, and the newly established Islamic Republic, which turned into a theocracy. It's theocratic, which means theocracy is a system where political authority is deeply tied to religious authority, meaning religious leaders, laws, or interpretations of faith guide the government and the state. That's not entirely, that's a philosophical standpoint, but it means it doesn't have to be religious. It can also be spiritual, but you guys know that. It means governed by God. Whatever God is to you, religious, spiritual, whatever. It just means governed by God, metaphorical, whatever. So it's been this way since 1979, right? So what is a Shah? A Shah was a title used for the monarch or king of Iran or Persia, historically equivalent to an emperor or a sovereign ruler. An emperor. But there's also another term. Before I get into that, if you guys remember, this relates. Trust me. It's interesting how when Trump became president this time, people were calling him Cyrus the Great. I didn't know who Cyrus the Great was. And looking into information that I could get from DeepSeek, I didn't go much detail into it, but it was, it doesn't fit Trump. I don't know why they're using that rhetoric. So it said, when Trump became president, people call him Cyrus the Great. And is it Cyrus? I think it's Cyrus the Great. In one word. Yes, they call him Cyrus. Let's go into detail about who Cyrus the Great was. And you see, this doesn't fit Trump. Who was Cyrus the Great? The founder of the first Persian Empire in the 6th century BCE, known for conquering vast territories and for allowing exiled peoples, including many Jews in Babylon, to return to their homelands and rebuild their temples. Now then, there's foreshadowing in there. Jews in Babylon to return to their homelands and rebuild their temples. that isn't how this is going to go. That isn't how this is going to go regarding the United States. But you can see here the foreshadowing about what's about to happen. So it says Cyrus the Great was the founder of the First Persian Empire. This means that I'm setting a four thing. From a Western Christian perspective, what's going to happen is, and Trump has been talking about this, that he's going to take over the regime of Iran. A theocracy, mind you. Again, I'm trying to not have ChatGPT respond in a way where it says, oh, that's just interpretation. Or throw them out or overthrow them. But let's say overthrow. Yeah, so, in one word, has Trump talked about overthrowing the regime of Iran? I don't know what it's gonna say. He has said it. Supposedly, I've seen some things about it, but let's see what this says. It says yes. All right. I wasn't sure if it was gonna say yes or not. All right. So he is going to do that. He is going to do that. There's a problem with that. How do I say this? This is gonna be a pretty long video. I'm trying to go into detail. I've already said a lot within 12 minutes. So he does takes over Iran, right? So I want to show you something from the Old Testament. Now, I didn't know this existed until like a few days after I discovered all this. DeepSeek was telling me this. I was like, all right, I gotta make sense out of this. So I think it's Jeremiah 49 that says it. Book of Jeremiah, chapter 49, contains prophecy of judgment against several surrounding ancient Israel. Describing warfare, destruction, fear, exile, and the eventual scattering of peoples, while also including a later promise of restoration for Elam in the latter days. Now, that's exactly what it doesn't say much, but it talks about Elam. Elam is right there. Elam is right here. Now, in one word, what nation is Elam? Iran. At the time, it was Persia, but it's Iran right now. Now, you might be thinking, what does all this have to do with it? So the Jews see this. The Western Christian doesn't see this. Ukraine sees it. The Orthodox Christians, the Greece, from Greece, Ukraine. I don't want to say Russia because it would be like a propagandized version of Orthodox Christianity. But the Orthodox Christians that knows what's going on, sees all this, they see the pattern. And they know what's about to happen. So, what does Now, Jeremiah was a prophetic writer. I'm going to get on my phone and find that verse. And then I can ask ChatGPT. Jeremiah 49, chapter 49, verse 30. What was it? 38? Yeah. Okay. What does Jeremiah 49, chapter 49, verse 38 say? In most English tradition, that God will set his throne in Elam and destroy his king and officials as part of a prophecy of judgment against Elam. So, God sets up his throne in Iran. That's a theocracy, right? So they're preparing and they're waiting for what is known as a Shahanshah. A Shahanshah is also a king, but it's a higher title of king of Persia than just saying king. So, what is a Shahanshah? In a sentence. A Shahanshah is a Persian imperial title meaning king of kings, used by emperors of Iran or Persia. Well, Persia, because they didn't have Shahanshahs under the theocracy. They have supreme leaders, but they don't have a Shahanshah or a Shah to signify supreme rule over subordinate kings and territories. So it means the king of kings. Shah means king, en means of, and Shah, of course, so king of kings. What does the prophecy, what does the book of Revelation say the Antichrist will do in a sentence? There's two things that he will do, but if it doesn't say, then I'm gonna. So, Book of Revelation shows a beast-like world ruler who gains political power, demands worship, deceives nations, persecutes believers, and exercises global authority through field war and economic control. Now, give me the etymology. It's not actually etymology when you're doing proper nouns, but it's in that. I think it's something like called automatic, automastic, something like that. It's a group. Etymology is a group of that. Not etymology. Etymology of Donald Trump. Not etymology. Oh man, I use it so many times I forgot what it is. Etymology, not entomology. Etymology. We're not studying bugs. The name Donald Trump combines the Scottish Gaelic-derived Donald, meaning world ruler or ruler of the world, with the English surname Trump, which historically referred to a trumpet or a trump card, symbolizing announcement, dominance, and superiority. So, he has this world ruler, and he comes to take over a theocracy, a theocratic regime. And it says in one word, does the Antichrist in the book of Revelation take over the throne of God? He usurps it. Oh well. It's not take over. It's he takes the throne. He sits on the throne and he proclaims himself to be God. He speaks as if he is God. Yeah, let me rewrite that. portray himself as God. In one word, does the Antichrist in the book of Revelation, does the Antichrist sit in the throne of God portraying himself as God? And the answer is yes. But let me show you something. The Shan Shah is going to return. There's going to be a Shan Shah. It means King of Kings. What does it say about the King of Kings? Book of Revelation describes the King of Kings and Lord of Lords as a title belonging to Jesus Christ, portraying him as the ultimate ruler who returns in victory, defeats evil, judges the nations, and establishes final authority over all earthly powers. The Shan Shah, the theocracy, the throne that Trump is putting himself into. Now, for Western Christians, they would say this as a good thing, that Israel is going to be free. He's taking over Iran. But here's the thing about Israel, guys, that they don't tell you. Israel was created for the Jews. It was better than, the Holocaust. Did you know that on the same day, the United States and the Soviet Union both recognized Israel as an independent state or independent nation? But when the USSR collapsed, Russia sided with Iran and the United States stayed with Israel. And if you notice today, Europe isn't on the side of Israel. They're siding with Iran. So the United States is right there with Israel. And there are Jews that do not want to be part of Israel because to them, Israel looks like a prison. They're not set free. And so they have the United States and the Christians putting all this money into donations of money and resources to keep Israel into a prison. So with Iran under control of Trump, it creates this boundary where Israel is trapped. And Jews don't like that. And when the Orthodox Christians see Trump takes over Iran, they're like, they'd be praying, they'd be going to church, there'd be more people saying, it would be like Chernobyl again. The atheists will see this as a sign and put it together, and they'll start going to church. And people, MAGA and the Christian community of the West will say, look, Trump has brought more people into going to church. He's like this. He's like the greatest ruler of Christianity there's ever been. And they don't see it. They don't see it. They don't know. And the Jews are like, it's getting worse. And everybody's seeing it except the United States. So it just holds down Israel. But remember, the King of Kings, the Shan Shah, returns. Throws them all out. Because Islam is also waiting for a second coming of Christ. It said, is Islam ready for the return of Christ in one word? And it says yes. So Iran is preparing. They're waiting for this return of Christ. And you got Trump. And eventually what's going to happen is the United States is going to be in a position, and they're not going to win. They're going to be in a position where they remove all these barriers. Trump is taking Iran. And they're saying nothing can stop us. We've accomplished democracy. We've accomplished pro-Westernism and all this. Setting the world free, making it a free world. And they don't know that they're going to push themselves right there to the brink of going there at the bare metal of seeing the Shan Shah in person, and they're going to lose. They ain't going to stand a chance. And everyone else knew it except the United States. Guys, could say that ChatGPT and say, oh, that's all interpretation. There's no evidence of that. But that's the Western world thinking. You know, you can deny it until it happens. But guys, dude, when I saw that, I was like, wow. I was like, wow. I told you this. I needed that disclaimer. I said that within less than 30 minutes. So, guys, I know that's a lot to take in, but makes sense. They don't tell us this in the West. But when you see something like that, it's like, that makes sense. And you know, you could say it was a setup. You could say it was they were giving Trump this. And yeah, you could say that Iran is going to give Trump this power. The regime is going to hand themselves over to Trump. Even though they're actually not. Because, you know, if you look at everything that's been going on, like I mentioned before in previous videos, Trump has been in countries where they're giving him sword dances, which are can be interpreted symbolically as, not as honor, but as preparing for war. They're telling the people to prepare for war. He does this coup in Ukraine where they want to overthrow Zelensky using democracy. But then there's two European leaders say, no, we legitimize Zelensky. So no one's stopping him. The CIA is not stopping him. They're putting him in these positions saying, showing the world, hey, look at Trump. He's in these wrecking balls. Yeah, he's a useful idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. I know that. MAGA says that he does know what he's doing. But he's setting the United States up for failure where they can't get out of it. They're pretty much, and Iran is going to be the final nail in that coffin. It's sort of like, here's Trump. Here's the United States being used as a sacrifice. Don't destroy us. Destroy them. Because they don't know what's going on. And they're going to be the sacrifice that shows the world you don't mess with what's going on, with what's about to happen. Guys, you can't save everybody. You can't save 330 million people. But everyone's going to watch this. This is going to be an event that no one can. Everyone's going to see it. You can call it the return of Christ. See, Christ is going to be there. But no, this event against the United States, everybody's going to see that, right? It's an event. That's going to be an event. They're expecting an event. They're going to get an event. They're not going to get a face. They're going to get an event. And they're going to be right there. Guys. That's why I got this channel going. But yeah, guys, before it hits 30 minutes, I'll end it here. I said what I needed to say. So, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.